Welcome back to Sunrise today. We're turning our attention now to the Operation Positive ID, which has generated some reactions previously. But now we do have two gentlemen in the studios here with us. Honorable Sam Onigbo on my immediate right. We also do have Honorable Amadou Jaha. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, the House did take a look at this particular matter yesterday, and they spoke vehemently. Honorable Jaho was already on tape also speaking up on this, yes. Not exactly happy with this. But you're also in the House Committee on Army, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, so now that you're taking this position, did it come to, because being a member of that committee, many will have this impression that your committee may have a wind of this even before it's announced. Did you? Or it came to you as a surprise?
No, actually, it came to us as a surprise, particularly to me. It's a surprise, actually, because first, I understand it's not within the job description of the Nigerian Army to embark on this activity. One. On the other hand, it may even lead to the Nigerian Army reducing themselves to a menial job or maybe some trivialities with regards to their activities, which is going to have a very negative effect in their activity.
But that communication indicated that it was going to be in coordination with other security agencies. So did that suggest that perhaps it's something that they've already finalized, and maybe that we're going to see it on the 1st, even though the House is speaking strongly against this?
I'm not averse to OPI, but I'm strongly averse to a position of Nigerian military getting involved deeply in it. Because to the best of my knowledge, and from the information I've gathered from my constituency, one of their major problems is lack of manpower to fight the insurgents in the northeast, to fight the bandits in the northwest and other parts of the country. So if you are lacking or you have challenges of manpower, and this time around you are deploying some of your staff to embark on trivialities, if I can put it this way, trying to search something that cannot work. To the best of our knowledge, national identity card has not transmitted more than 50% to Nigerians. We have more than 50% of Nigerians that have no national ID card as I'm talking to you. One, because there has never been attention by government to the agency, that is NIMC. Secondly, as I'm talking to you, this morning, in fact, it's even late. If you go by 6 a.m. in Maiduguri, you see more than 2,000 or 3,000 people online, on queue, waiting to get their own national identity card. So to the best of my knowledge, substantial number of our villagers, if I can put it this way, people living in the rural community, they are not even aware of the national ID card, talk less of getting one. I got my own before my inauguration, and it was part of the requirement for me to obtain a diplomatic passport. So this shows that substantial number of even lawmakers, we are 360, charge them. You hardly have more than half that has national ID card. If you talk of an international passport, for instance, as a means of identification, for you to get international passport in Nigeria, you must spend not less than 20,000. Where will you get the 20,000? A bag of rice is almost 20,000 naira now. So we better tell the truth and face the reality. The truth of the matter is Nigeria is not ready now to embark on this OPI.
Honorable Sam, what about those who think that this may send a wrong message to our security agencies who are trying to do what they can to secure the country? What if they think that, look, we don't seem to be on the same page with them about this? Will that be a wrong or rightly misconstrued message on their part if they think that way?
Well, thank you very much. There are different steps to policy formulation and implementation. So I do not know to what extent they consulted. And drawing from what my colleague just said, security agencies, we are still doing recruitment, we are still having shortfalls. The military, particularly the army, they keep talking about they don't have enough manpower to fight insurgency. So for me, I just think that there wasn't enough consultation. But the truth is that they don't have the manpower to be able to do this.
That's,
The other main
they are
danger,
going alone, but they didn't indicate that they were going to go alone on this one.
see, the police, if you check the number of persons that a policeman takes care of in Nigeria as against the United Nations standard, you discover it's grossly inadequate. That's a clear example. And that's even the aspect of either paramilitary or whatever that you consider to be significantly empowered or employed, or to have enough, manpower to work for us as a nation. So I am concerned that this kind of arrangement usually, very often, leads to abuses. You recall that even cases that we have around Abuja here, where people were just killed for nothing. Just like that, just because there was the issue of identity. We don't know whether this is this person's identity. Before anybody could say Jack, people were killed. We know the Abuja 6 and all that and all that. So we are concerned that there's a potential for this to lead to series of abuses.
But
and we have a duty as a parliament, the People's Parliament, to point out what is likely to cause problems for the ordinary people. You saw the analysis given by my colleague. I just got my own, what do you call it, national identity card. I know I've been having passports, I've been traveling, and all that, but it's not the same thing with those who are moving. I don't know if you have taken the statistics of individuals who move into Lagos from villages, and once they get there, they're not coming back.
Is it a challenge of getting this ID as opposed to, first of all, the idea of sifting the wheat from the chaff, so to speak?
I talked about policy formulation and its implementation steps, and sometimes when you get unintended outcome, the outcry from the House is to ensure that we prevent the unintended outcomes from happening. Nobody is saying, well, it's not a good idea. We all travel, we go to places, we see how they check. But let me give you an instance. In places where you have the identity, like you say, for instance, the US, once you are stopped by the police and they say, show me your driver's license if you're the one driving, or your state ID card, once you produce that and the policeman takes it to his car and runs it through, it generates the information that says this is genuine or this is fake. Do we have such facility? Or you are going to base it on the decision of the man on the spot, which in very many cases, leads to negative outcomes. So it is that unintended consequences that come out of policies that were not properly either articulated or thought through that the House is concerned about.
So what do you think, should have been the process for this? Because apparently, or rather, maybe we can assume that all other agencies have been informed about this proposed collaboration with the Nigerian military. So what should have been the process?
Well, that you have just said, and I just said, the House is the House of the people. I represent 3 local governments. I don't know how many he represents.
3 also.
Very well. Now, if you represent this number of persons or this number of local governments, people by persons, and such a sensitive thing is about to happen, and we were not briefed. Fortunately, he's a member of the Army Committee. Do you think you have adequately prepared the people for what is about to happen? It is the unintended consequences that we are concerned about.
But
that's what
Honorable General, they say that this happened in the Northeast and that it was a success. But you also say that several people queuing up trying to get their ID. Is it as a result of how they had implemented it before, or what?
Even the one that happened in the Northeast, I was a living witness. It was immigration services that was conducting the search, not military men, not the army in particular. And even the immigration services, the way they are conducting it, I was not comfortable with that. Because by then, I was just a mere commissioner. I was not a member of House of Representatives. I wouldn't have raised the issue. Because they will queue up my constituents that are expected to go to Maiduguri on time so that they will not be attacked by Boko Haram in the evening hours. They will queue them up and search them to bring out their national identity card. Some of these constituents are currently, as I'm talking to you, living in Cameroon Republic. They are taking refuge there. So how do you expect them to get this ID card in Cameroon Republic? That's the truth of the matter. They have to come down to Nigeria and make one because of the displacement. As I'm talking to you, my people are displaced. Some of them are living in Cameroon, some of them are living in Chad, some of them are living in Nigeria. So accessibility also matters. For them to have access to this ID card is another thing. So now that I am a member of House of Representatives and military is talking that they are going to embark on this kind of search, let me give you an example. For my constituent to travel from Maiduguri to Abuja may in one or other spend 14 hours on the road. That is under normal circumstance. In the event where you said in every checkpoint, you can search them to bring out, or you can ask them to bring or present their identity card. When do you expect them to reach Abuja? And vice versa. Another thing, had it been NIMC has reported that all Nigerians have gotten their own national identity card. So we may not have reservation over this thing because it's convinced beyond reasonable doubt everybody has gotten his own.
So, but if they all get it, will it then be okay for the army to conduct this operation?
It's not okay for the army. This is not army's work. It's not part of their job description. Their job description is for them to protect the territorial integrity of this nation from any foreign attack or foreign invader. So what we are telling the whole world now is we are complacent about this, what is happening in the country, to the extent that we have the luxury of time to pull some part of our military to come and do this civilian, which I call it civilian jobs. My father is a retired military officer, and he's a 63 NA. When he was in the military, even our neighbors cannot talk to him the way they want, because to him they are bloody civilians. So if you are getting closer to civilians, it's like you are reducing the capacity of the profession of the Nigerian army, which is, to me, is unprofessional.
Honorable, some people will say that, you know, this is overlooking the fact that as we speak, the Nigerian army is currently involved in 24 states, in at least 24 states of the Federation. They have been deployed to internal security operations in Maiduguri, in Borno, where you're from. They have been there for how many years now in internal security operations? 10 years. Because of the, you know, emergence of terrorism as a threat to Nigeria's existence.
Yes.
Some people will say, are we having this conversation because we have now experienced some level of security? And by that I mean, you know, some prevention of terrorist attacks in cities and in most places. Because they would argue that in the days where these attacks were rampant and we were not sure where it was going to be next, these checkpoints were mounted everywhere and people were happy to go through them if they felt that it was going to fish out the terrorists. Are we now saying this because we feel that, you know, there is some level of calm and we should go through what we are now saying is the proper channel?
So are you telling us that the terrorists doesn't have means of identification? They don't have national, international passport, they don't have national ID? They get all these things easily compared to ordinary citizen that is not doing anything. Ordinary citizen that is feeding from hand to mouth. So they will get, or they will have access to all this kind of identification. If you think for somebody to identify himself, is from there you will be able to know who is a terrorist and who is not a terrorist. You're wasting your time. Because the truth of the matter is, a terrorist can go to any length to disguise him or herself to come out and cause havoc.
So what was the essence? Why did we not protest when there were checkpoints mounted? Or why do we seem to feel safer when we see checkpoints mounted, especially after a security threat? What exactly is the essence? Do we see then that there is absolutely no reason for checkpoints to be mounted?
No, I'm strongly an advocate of checkpoints. Because even in my last engagement with the military, I told them that the proposed plan for super camps in our constituency, particularly in the Northeast, I am completely averse to that particular decision or tactics. Because if you are to form super camps, this means we are going to withdraw all the checkpoints and military base along the road to next communities, which may in one way or the other expose the civilians to series of attacks by the Boko Haram insurgents. I told them that from the day military checkpoints were dismantled, if I can put it this way, I lost more than 40 people between between Bama to Goza. And the last person I lost was the person whose head was cut, and they placed his head on his chest and burnt his car, simply because there were no securities on the road.
The question is this: terrorism is not written, or terrorist or kidnapper or armed robber is not inscribed on the forehead of anybody.
Yes.
If indeed you have argued that the checkpoints are effective,
yes,
checking this criminality, and one of the ways these people know is just by people passing in front of them. They can immediately tell when something is suspicious and when something is not. Are we not giving them, or are we taking away all the credit we give them when they mount checkpoints without even giving us any notice, as opposed to telling us now that indeed the checkpoints we are seeing along our roads are going to be increased in number, and that we're going to be stopping people randomly to say, identify yourself? What exactly is the quarrel?
No, the essence of the checkpoint from my own perspective and the way it worked in my constituency is that the presence of the military in the various checkpoints along the road linking the Maiduguri Metropolitan Council with my constituency. My constituency is Goza, Chibok, and Dambua, and which you have between Maiduguri to Goza is about 135 kilometers. From Maiduguri to Chibok is about 135 kilometers, and from Maiduguri to Dambua is about 100 kilometers. If we have these checkpoints along the road, the insurgents cannot come and stop people on the road because they know the military are there.
Is the insurgents written on their forehead?
It's not written on their forehead, but they come.
Can they get ID cards and, you know, still come through anyway?
No, the thing is, my concern is the attack. If they cannot come and attack the civilians simply because we have the military presence, this is my area of concern. But I see no reason why military men should embark on searching individuals to present their identification and go.
You know, gentlemen, honorable, again, you're on the Army Committee. One wonders, did you in any way get across to any member of the Army or the military, either before that motion was moved, or if you didn't know it was going to be moved, after it had been moved, to confirm whether or not they really want to do this? Because the reaction we've seen from Nigerians, even from both of you, questioning, why would they embark on this if they know they do not have the manpower? Did you reach out to see, is it real or fake? Are they really going to do this?
To the best of my knowledge, I heard of the OPI just yesterday on the floor of the House. Because I'm not a social media fan, and sometimes I don't even read the newspapers. I had it on the floor of the House, presented by the leadership of the House, preventing the Nigerian Army from doing this thing by quoting some reference and sections of the Constitution. So that was why I contributed. That for me, my area of concern is the staffing. My area of concern is
I understand that. That's why many people are concerned, because we tried severally to get across to the Army to find, look, is this real? Are you really going to do this? Because if they say they did it in the Northeast and it worked, And some persons were here the other day saying, yes, it worked in the Northeast, they want to do it in other parts of the country. But from your perspective, too, I'm just wondering, in terms of the question that this raises about policing functions and army functions, is this something that, as a result of this, whether it's real or not, we should have that conversation in terms of how do we ensure that the police are in the front lines when it regards internal security?
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain. See, I started here by saying that how you formulate a policy and how you implement it, these things are key.
Okay, Honorable, I understand we need to go to break, but
Okay,
we'll come
thank
back
you.
and let
All
you
right.
respond to this in just a moment.
Okay.
Stay with us. Back, well, Honorable Sam, you were going to talk about your points about when do we have that conversation, because if several other agencies also haven't responded to this, there's some of them saying, look, this is not exactly the Army's sole or primary responsibility. It means there's something going on there.
Well, I started out in this our interview by saying that key things you experience when you are formulating policies and implementing them, there are stages you follow. Communication is key, and the other one is ensuring that you are together, you are on board, everyone is on board. For me, I think that there are some things that are missing. And part of those things, my colleague just said that he did not even know about this coming on. I read about it, somebody sent me this information through WhatsApp. And immediately I read through it, I just sensed a problem. Because in my part of the country, which is the Southeast, we have had issues with the checkpoints that were mounted. And I know that over time, these checkpoints, when they started initially, it seemed like, oh, something great was happening. But over time, we realized that certain things that were not previously associated with the soldiers were now beginning to happen. And that's the kind of danger when I refer to unintended outcomes, unintended consequences. That is one side of it. The other side of it is when you go out just because of very simple, short argument. Somebody's shot, somebody's killed. I'll probably just provide what is in the public domain. We had an experience in the Southeast, in Abia to be precise, where an Okada man who was used to giving money to the soldiers at the checkpoint was stopped, and he was not able to provide that money, 20 naira. And then the soldiers chased him to his compound and shot him. In fact, the governor of the state got involved in that matter. So it's just that we need the communication, we need all hands to be on deck for us to secure the country. That is very true. But moving the soldiers away from their primary responsibility of protecting the integrity, territorial integrity of the country, and then bringing them into searching bags. And let me ask this question: where is the manpower? If you did it in the Northeast, it's a sectional thing. Perhaps you had some, some kind of. You had
said it was immigration that was even doing it.
Very well.
Not
You had
And
some
civilian
number-
JTF.
Yes.
Civilian JTF.
You had some number to be able to police that. But for the entire nation, I'm just concerned. And it is the concern that the House expressed yesterday.
But Honorable,
And I believe it very well, very properly situated.
because it's been referred to your committee now.
Yep.
So you're going to reach out to the Army to
Yes.
find out whether or not this is the case. But how do you approach this in terms of subsequent matters such as this one? Are you looking to see that there are measures? Because this has been circulating for weeks, even before we decided to take a look at it to find out whether or not it's true. But are you looking to ensure that these things don't occur again? They ensure that they stay within the primary responsibility. We do have a challenge security-wise, we know that. But how is your committee going to respond to this?
No, actually, we have just concluded forming the committees. And we had interaction with the military about 2 times. One in Maiduguri when we visited them in their theater. The second one is in the budget defense. So there was not enough time for us to sit down and discuss all these things. But maybe in the future, anything that they are going to do, what is the demand till they let us know, we should know so that we can
Isn't that going to conflict? Because if the CNC gives an instruction and order, are they supposed to revert to the House or just for information purposes?
No, actually, there is a provision in the Constitution, Section 217, that says any matter with regards to security of the nation should be referred to National Assembly for legislation. It's there. So if at all they want to embark on anything, they should inform members of the parliament.
But then it took the National Assembly this long to even be aware of it, because as Chamberlain said, there was a thread of tweets on September 25 on the Twitter handle of the Nigerian Army, and it's tagged press release. So I'm wondering, why you just had to get to know about it just like every other Nigerian when they were supposed to revert to you, but they didn't.
Yes, that was why the minority leader presented the motion yesterday. Had it been is to the knowledge of the House in a formal way, there is no way he can bring it. But to the best of my knowledge, me as a person, that was the only time I heard about this thing. And to me, I'm not comfortable with that. Because even the one that is existing in the Northeast, that the immigration officers and other agents of coercion are doing, I'm not comfortable with that, because I've been receiving complaints from my constituents with regards to this thing. And before I became a member, I have been seeing the way and manner my people have been subjected to thorough search and interruptions along the line. Because in our place, you have to start your journey early so that you can reach early. Any attempt for you to do a night, this thing is going to be a problem.
Honorable Sam, do you think that this in any way should also extend to us having that conversation or calling NIMC and asking them, look, why is it that people haven't gotten these cards? Are you getting enough funding? Because sometimes we hear them say, we don't have the kind of support and funding that you people think we have from government. Shouldn't we have that conversation as well?
The conversation is absolutely necessary. I'll tell you something. Maybe I'm making a revelation here. I just got my own national identity card. In fact, I got it less than a month ago, because as I went back to renew my passport, I was now told that it was a requirement. Before then, when I was commissioner in Abia, I had made an effort to get that. And I found out that, well, I don't want to use the word they were not adequately, but I guess they were not adequately or sufficiently equipped to do the job then.
Equipped or funded?
Yeah. Yes, you need funding to have the equipment that you require to carry out this. So if you don't have enough fund, you don't have the equipment, or you have outdated equipment that are not functioning very well, you are not adequately equipped. So it was difficult for me to get that. And then I came to Abuja. It is still very, very, very difficult for people to access this. The truth is, the agency has not been supported enough to be able to ensure that most Nigerians have this national identity card. If we call for the statistics now, you'll be embarrassed.
Could it also be that people have not been duly communicated with about the need for the ID card?
Yes, that's the point. But having communicated to the people, those who are aware, have you also discussed the level of difficulty that they have gone through in trying to get one? It's cumbersome. But I'm not saying that we should not follow, lay down procedures to do these things. We should have different points across the country for these things to be issued to our people. If you are going, assuming you are going to an interview, or you're going to somewhere that you require an identity card, and it's taking you forever to get it, it becomes a problem for you. But you need that to be able to do that. For instance, I was asked to get that for me to get a new passport. I had to leave everything. But maybe given the little privilege I have as a House of Reps member, I was able to get it in not too long a time. However, it is not the same thing with my constituents in the village who want national identity card. People are very proud of having these things and showing them off. Even the voters card, they are very proud of them. So it is up to us as a nation to know exactly what we want to, achieve and work towards it, and make sure we get there. there's no point for us to be approaching things, you know, in a fairly haphazard manner and then getting the kind of results that we are getting.
Well, that means this is not going to take a long time for your committee to talk to the army, get back to the House, and the Nigerians and get feedback, is it? How much time frame do you have?
Actually, there was no time from what I know, except if I see the referral letter, but it has been referred to our committee.
All right. Okay. Well, we're hoping that this will also lead to some other things being put in place so that they don't send the wrong signal, and the army, hopefully, they'll speak, and then we'll get to hear. But we want to thank both of you for coming on this morning. Honorable Amadou Jaha, a member of the APC, a member of the Committee on the Army, and Honorable Sam Onwigbo, a member of PDP. Gentlemen, again, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, we will be back. I turn our attention to Lagos politics. That is in a moment.